Hello, monster mavens of all sexes, shapes, and sizes. This is Gleer to talk about what happens on screen when monsters battle other monsters in blood-curdling combat to the death. In other words, monster mashups. Of course, let's start with some graveyard smashes. In 1943, Universal Studios decided to have two popular horror movie icons duke it out in Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. The furry one was played by Lon Chaney Jr., and his bolt-necked arch-enemy was portrayed by Bela Lugosi. Boris Karloff decided to sit this one out, so Bela, who was originally offered the monster role in the James Whale classic, pinch hit for him here. Oddly enough, Bela refused the role in the 1931 opus because there wasn't any dialogue, and he hated the idea of hiding his handsome face under all that makeup. And there, as it turned out, the screenwriters left the monster mute once again. The team-up spawned several other Universal monster meet and greets. There was 1944's House of Frankenstein with Karloff returning to the frightful as a mad scientist. B-movie Western vet Glenn Strange played the Frankenstein monster. Lon Jr. was again donning fur as Wolfie, and John Carradine filled out the vampire's cape as a rail-thin Count Dracula with a Stoker faithful mustache. A year later, the studio delivered The House of Dracula with the same actors playing the same ghouls. And in 1948, Universal gave us the hit comedy Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein with Strange, Chaney, with Lugosi back as Drac. Karloff was originally asked to play Frankenstein's monster alongside Bud and Lou, although he did agree to help promote the film and later appeared opposite the comic duo in Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, Boris Karloff, and Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In 1971, Schlockmeister Al Adamson attempted to recapture the magic with Dracula versus Frankenstein, which was again teaming Frankenstein's monster and Dracula. Only this time they were played by unknowns, although veterans Lon Chaney Jr. and J. Carrol Naish saw some screen time along with West Side Story star Russ Tamlin, famous little person Angelo Rossito, Adamson's starlet wife Regina Carroll, none other than famous Monsters of Filmland editor Forrest J. Ackerman. Oh, by the way, if you listen closely, you can hear Nash's false teeth clicking away on the soundtrack. Simply entertaining is the Japanese monster mashup King Kong versus Godzilla, a 1962 battle royale pitting America's meanest monkey against Japan's Giganto monstrosity. Here, King Kong rises from an island, and Godzilla appears out of an iceberg, and the two eventually face off near Mount Fuji. The international hit actually was a spin-off of an idea original King Kong creator Willis O'Brien had. He wanted to have the mighty ape tangle with a large Frankenstein monster. The idea was offered to Japan's Toho studio, who went with their ace box office star Godzilla instead. Kong vs. Zilla was more fun than a barrel of monkeys, and so successful, it spurned scores of other Godzilla against other monster opuses. There was Mechagodzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and so much more. In the tradition of those productions was 2004's Alien vs. Predator, and the sequel, Alien vs. Predator Requiem from 2007, in which the large entities duked it out for the big enchilada. Inspired by a popular comic book series, the films took the icky creatures from two popular film franchises and set them off against humans and each other. In the former Arnold Schwarzenegger said he would make a cameo appearance if he lost his bid for governor of California. But guess what happened? And in the latter, we got to see Predator's home planet for the first time. Shots of the aliens' home sweet home planet were on hold for a third installment in the franchise. But guess what? There hasn't been a third installment yet. Men in weird suits posing as large critters aren't the only shock epics showing evil grappling evil. Consider 2003's Freddy versus Jason, which pit the sharp-bladed dream demon from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies against the hockey masked evil dude from the Friday the 13th movies. The results were strong, over 80 million at the box office, but apparently not strong enough to warrant a sequel. Oh yes, the offering had a body count of 24 and a 300-gallon blood count. And Ronnie Yu, the Hong Kong trained helmer of Bride of Chucky, got the directing assignment after Rob Zombie passed on the offer to direct the debut film, The House of a Thousand Corpses. Ghoulie Herb also tips his hat to the current state of big monster smorgasbord cooked up by the Asylum DVD Company and the Sci-Fi Channel. No, we're not talking WWE SmackDown. We're talking Mega Python versus Gatoroid with 80s pop icons Tiffany and Deborah Gibson. Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus. Alien versus Hunter. Why does that look so familiar? And Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. Pass the calamari. Sometimes monsters teaming up can be even more frightfully fun than when they're at odds with one another. Everything old was new again when the Monster Squad landed in theaters in 1987. Here, a group of pint-sized monster hunters encounter Count Dracula, a werewolf, and the Frankenstein monster in their neighborhood. Here, the werewolf's face was not modeled after Lon Chaney Jr., but after the face of a bearded makeup and special effects wizard named Stan Winston, the famous Stan Winston. And none other than Liam Neeson was once on a shortlist to play Count Dracula in the film. The part eventually went to Canadian actor Duncan Regehr, who earlier played Earl Flynn in a TV movie, and also played Zorro in a TV series in the early 1990s. More deja vu was in store when Van Helsing, in which Hugh Jackman plays the famous vampire slayer and encounters Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, and even Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the film. The expensive movie started off well, but eventually tanked at the box office, while many fans and most critics called for the CGI-stacked extravaganza to be burned at the stake. Yes, even so, writer, director, creator Stephen Sommers wanted Van Helsing to also serve as a pilot for a TV series called Transylvania, in which a Western sheriff heads to Europe to fight several different monsters. But the films flame out at the box office, and a $160 million budget put the kibosh on the project. So what will be the next monster mashup that Hollywood dreams of?
That really hurt!